Hello, everybody. It is Chris Thompson and
Mike Mandel.
And we are about to turn the cameras on. We're just doing a quick audio check to make sure everything is working. So if you are in the broadcast room, I think that's the technical name for it.
Oh, yes.
In YouTube, on YouTube, in the YouTube, then let us know. Just drop a comment in. And Harris, I see that you have already messaged me and let me know that you're not set up to leave comments. That's totally fine.
Hello, Harris.
And we will be seeing you in Toronto soon, my Wizard School friend.
Oh, he's coming to Wizard School. That's fantastic.
Yes.
Great, great.
Okay, so, awesome. Hypno Eerie, Justin King. All right, Justin.
Nice.
And we've got Patrick over in Sweden.
Excellent.
So sorry, is it Sweden or Finland?
Somewhere in Scandinavia, sure.
I'm so embarrassed if I got that wrong.
Or is it Denmark?
Patrick. Ashley, all right, she's come to Toronto too soon, which is fantastic.
Or is it Norway?
So we've got a bunch of people coming in. I think that's good. We could probably turn on our cameras if you want.
Well, let's do that.
Let's do that. So let me, I've got to set it up nicely. Here we go. Okay. And boom, there we go.
Do we have ignition?
We are on.
Gus Grissom is in the house. Bavarch.
Bavarch. Who's Gus Grissom, you or I?
I think just in the house.
I want to tell you, before we start, we've got this hilarious, we're bouncing around all these ideas of videos that we can create. And my friend Brian, who actually was the developer of the NUVI app, he thinks that we should do a series called Order and Chaos. And Mike is chaos, and I am order. So it'll be videos of constantly me trying to rein things in and keep things organized.
Which pretty much sums up our business.
And Mike being a 5-year-old.
No, you called me the brilliant 5-year-old that you work with. Thank
Introducing chaos. So, by the way, we are officially about a minute away from the start time. So this is just preamble. We're just warming things up, making sure everything's working.
Pointless. Yeah.
We should be, with our internet connection here, on the outskirts of Toronto.
Hypno East.
I am using a 480p, so I'm not using a full HD broadcast like we would do in our classroom, but it should look pretty good on a normal mobile screen or computer. If you go full screen, it's going to be standard def resolution, so I wouldn't recommend that unless you find us really ugly and you want to fuzz the whole thing out.
A man of my age.
Yeah, do that. So we're good to go. By the way, this is our normal setup. Those of you who are not part of the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy, this is just the traditional monthly live webinar setup that we use to jump on and answer questions for our students. And we wanted to open up to the public. I guess we can get the ball rolling.
Let's get the ball rolling.
It's officially 11 o'clock.
It's metaphor.
So we'll start. This is what we typically do every single month for our online students. And we thought, what the heck? Let's open it up to the world. Anyone who wants to join can. We have a bunch of questions that were sent in by our students ahead of time. Those obviously get the priority, but you have a YouTube chat area. It's obviously way busier than normal. And I will be occasionally awkwardly looking down and adjusting.
And I'll be taking a sip of this perfectly ordinary water.
Right. So we're basically here to have some fun, to talk about hypnosis and anything related to hypnosis, which often means personal development skills. And just
NLP
NLP, personal development skills, hypnosis.
Living the best life you can.
Everything from stage hypnosis to client hypnosis to street hypnosis to just conversational working with your friends and family and helping yourself in life situations that you face every single day.
Being a better presenter. And speaking of which, I get to announce I've just been hired by the Ontario legislature to do 3 keynotes for them, which is fantastic.
How quickly do you think they're going to realize that it was a huge mistake?
After the first one.
Okay, so I want to just check in. There's a bunch of people online here, which is fantastic. Ashley, Bertus, Stewart, Mark, Jim, who just signed up for the June class, which is phenomenal.
Nice.
Ken. Oh, by the way, Ken, thank you so much for those candles that you sent and on the room scents that you gave us in Vegas last year. Those were amazing.
My wife is addicted to them.
We got Lisa, we got Michael McDaniel out in Virginia, which is totally awesome. We got Maggie in Pembroke. We got Neri. I assume you're still in New Brunswick, in Moncton. We've got Clearview, Sweden, which is awesome. Rob Smith in Glasgow. Mohammed in Dubai.
There's no cow in Glasgow.
Glasgow, sorry.
There's no cow in Moscow.
Tim. Awesome. Neri has already said. We got Maggie, Jenny,
Maggie's
Karen,
doing well.
Rick Green, Captain Rick Green as well. 0 Point Hypnosis, Wisconsin. Oh, I know you're. Oh, that's Gail. Gail is 0 Point, right?
Hello, Gail.
Is that you, Gail? We had an amazing dinner a few years back at HypnoThoughts. So,
yes, we did.
And okay, so we've got lots and lots of people here, which is great. More
Let's
still
get
coming
started.
in. I probably could have done a better job advertising.
Yeah, in fact, probably a better
Here
job
we go.
of apologizing.
Yeah, let me apologize. All right, we're going to do Q&A. We're going to start with, let's start with the topics that we came up with.
Okay, yeah.
That we wanted to talk about involving, so
Oh, the hypno cards.
The backstory is about almost a year ago or so, we created
Right.
these hypnosis language cards.
Yeah.
I want to just say they're
Cards.
just our spin on how we do things. But a lot of people have, for example, Jamie Smart's cards. In fact, I'm sure I've got them on my
I've got them on my
on my
iPad.
bookshelf.
Jamie Smart stuff's great.
Igor Ledhovsky has a deck
great
of
ones.
cards. So we wanted to talk a little bit about how to practice hypnosis, and specifically the language patterns that are used in Ericksonian hypnosis, conversational
The more
style
subtle,
hypnosis.
to redirect someone's attention, create transic states on the fly, whether you're telling a story or whatever. And when we came up with these, we reverse engineered them from the idea of hypnotic language. We didn't consult Jamie Smart's cards or Igor's cards or the original Zebu cards,
We
which
made
I
our own.
have. We just did our own. These are the patterns I typically use, and Chris uses now as well.
Absolutely. So the point is, we're going to use these just for a quick demo of how we practice, how we can have some fun and practice hypnosis, and how you can get together with friends or on your own and practice this stuff. How can you do it without the cards, though? Well, you could take the same patterns that you'd find in any Ericksonian hypnosis book. You could write them down on a piece of paper. You could write them down on index cards. You could go buy the app from Jamie Smart. I think his are available. That's probably not that expensive.
Right.
You could get these patterns anywhere. We'll leave that up to you. If you want to get our cards, they're available on our homepage.
But this isn't
a sales
it's not
pitch.
an
We actually
advertisement.
lose money selling these,
Yeah.
but we wanted to just show you how you can have some fun and practice hypnosis. So,
And the more
how are
you
we going to do
continue
this?
to talk about this, Chris,
All right.
the more you'll discover your intelligence
So
dropping.
we're unleashing our weapons. Let's take our weapons
I've
out.
got mine out already. This
We
is
wanted to do a
fantastic.
series of hypnosis videos called Dueling Hypnotists.
No, the question is, Chris, what do you want? What do
Okay.
you really want?
Should we pick a topic?
And how will you know when you have
How
it?
will you know when you have it? All right, let's
right.
pre-frame this. So, when you're practicing, if you're doing any kind of practice with the cards or with the language patterns that you write down on paper or make your own flashcard app or whatever it is
NUVI
that
app,
you're doing,
whatever, yeah.
and this is where the chaos and order thing comes in. So there's basically chaos insofar as you have to figure out what you're going to say and you're not really sure what you're going to say. And then you have order insofar as
You're working towards an outcome of some sort.
if I draw we can pick an outcome in advance.
Right.
And let's say we'll do that in a moment. And then the other element of order is if I draw a random card from this deck, like the Seven of Hearts, which says, don't X too quickly, now I have order insofar as this is the pattern that I know I have to use.
Right.
So I just don't quite know how I'm going to use it. That's the chaos part. So chaos and order, hence he's
So
chaos
here's
and
the
I'm order.
outcome. The outcome is, what do you want? You want to demonstrate the use of the cards.
Okay, so cool. We'll pick that as our outcome, which is really kind of plain Jane and
And
simple.
every time you consider this, Chris,
Okay.
then you'll forget how to apply it.
Okay, so we've got amnesia layered on just for the fun of it because he's freaking chaos, boy.
Correct.
Okay, so get your weapons ready. Let's
I've
just do
already
a
been
fun little
using them
demo.
for 5
I know.
minutes, Chris.
Let's officially begin though. Oh, wait, before we do, one
Get
second,
your
Mike.
weapons ready, yeah.
Before I do, I want to just turn off the lower thirds because we don't need those. They're taking up space
Okay.
and all is good. So
All right.
well, let's.
And as you turn off the lower thirds, which card are you going to go to and how will you apply this?
I don't know. I'm going to cut the deck. Well, do you want to be the next to speak, or should I just continue?
And perhaps while you continue, Chris, and apply these in the way that is appropriate to you, you can discover that you've forgotten again exactly how you're going to use these.
And I won't tell you that practicing hypnosis can be as simple as writing down some patterns and just throwing them at people. Because your unconscious mind already knows that that's a simple way to do things, is it not?
And what happens when you again review what you've just said? Because you can still forget all of this easily and effortlessly and lose your place when you recognize you're in front of the entire planet.
Ace of Spades. And you can, Mike, consider that you've already forgotten what it is that you're going to say next about
That's
practicing
right.
hypnosis. There we go. Should we keep going, or is that?
I'm having fun.
So there's
How
the-
quickly will
All
you
right.
lose the thread here, Chris? Or has it already happened?
Perhaps now would be a good time to change the topic entirely.
And will you really, I mean really change the topic entirely? Or will you discover your own inadequacies rising to the surface? Is this the worst and stupidest thing you've ever come up with? Or were there far worse ones?
And now my card is pacing and leading for those who don't have. And it's an interesting thing to consider that having forgotten all of this can cause us to wonder where we're going to go next.
And a person may not realize that you've forgotten again how to do this. And what else have you just forgotten?
And how slowly can we keep doing this until our audience is just completely bored?
And would you rather pointlessly show them that?
Okay, so
but anyway, that's how you use them. Practice.
That's just some serious fun, and it's a nice thing to do, and we encourage you to
use anybody's cards, use ours, we don't care.
Yeah, use cards, use patterns, write them down, do whatever you like. The whole point of all this is just to show you that you can have a bunch of fun throwing hypnosis at anything. So our friend Scott Sandlin actually did a video about this.
Yeah.
It was kind of a rant video inside of the HypnoThoughts Live group on Facebook. By the way, join the HypnoThoughts Live group if you haven't already.
Yeah.
It's not our group, it's Scott and Richards and Stephanie, and they have a whole gang there. When you finish putting those cards away.
I'm still coughing.
All right,
okay, go ahead.
So Scott pointed out that if you want to really get good at hypnosis, you have to practice all the time. There's no excuse for just saying, oh, well, you know, I've taken a 1-week class, now I'm a pro. Okay, yeah, you'll get the potential to move forward and have amazing skills, but there's nothing quite like practicing what you've learned. So if you learn something, whether it be from our cards, from somebody else's cards, from a video course, from any of Jason Linnett's material or Bob Burns, or any of our awesome friends out there, Melissa, James Tripp, and Carl Smith, and all these amazing trainers,
David Snyder,
practice this stuff all the time. And I really want to encourage you to just think about where can you practice. Are you going to take the garbage out tonight? You can hypnotize the frickin' garbage can while you're taking it to the curb.
You can.
Or you can just practice hypnotic language while you're taking a shower or doing your hair or brushing your teeth. Maybe not while you're brushing your teeth.
But he's absolutely right, because before, I would always tell people practice in the shower instead of singing in the shower, which is a great thing to get in a good state.
Sing hypnotically.
Practicing hypnotic language in the shower works well. But because everybody's phone is hands-free now when they're driving, you can use it while you're driving. And people think you're just on the phone, so it's fantastic.
Now I'm just going to jump to the comments to make sure everything's cool there.
Right.
And here we go. All right, so keep talking, Mike, for a moment.
Okay, Chris, I'll keep talking. So we've got a number of questions to look at here. And one of the questions that came in online in our Facebook group, MMHA Engage, was about a hypnotic seal. And this is a very interesting concept. This has come up a few times over the years. I've met people who say they cannot be hypnotized because another hypnotist put a hypnotic seal on them that prevents them from being hypnotized.
So this sort of example, you might think of it in a movie or something, is, and no one will ever be able to pull this information out of you or undo this hypnotic work. It will only work when I hypnotize you, whatever it is.
Right.
Something
now,
like that.
The first example I ran into was when I was a young hypnotist in my late 20s, mid-20s, early 20s. I remember being at an event and a woman wanted to volunteer, but she had a hypnotic seal put on her, so she couldn't volunteer. But hers was conditional. It was unless she wrote a permission thing by hand and signed it and handed it to the hypnotist.
Okay, there you go.
So, which she did. I did not remove it in that case because there was no reason to. She was quite comfortable with this. But the whole idea of sealing someone hypnotically that they cannot be hypnotized again is ridiculous. It cannot be done. For example, since we assume that trance is occurring all the time, if we're watching television, we're going into trance. If we're driving, we're often going into trance, listening to music, zoning out, getting a massage. You get transic elements happening.
All the time.
Those aren't going to disappear because somebody's put a seal on you. And one of the first ways of breaking this so-called seal is to tell the person, to educate the person, so they realize they're going in and out of trance all the time without this person's permission. They're just thinking in terms of a formal hypnotic trance.
Authoritative type of trance.
Right.
Because for such a thing to really exist, the person would have to die. You cannot live and not go into trance every single day, all the time. Yeah, very depressing. On a scale of 8 to 10, Mike, how depressed are you about that right now?
Me.
Okay.
So let's continue with this point because it's a very interesting one. I have broken these seals before when people who were really locked up, they wanted hypnotherapy, but they couldn't go to the person who put this seal on them and whatever. I would educate them first. I would explain to them that all hypnosis is essentially self-hypnosis. I'm not making a 100% statement on that because some of it isn't. But generally speaking, it is self-hypnosis. Since that is the case, the subject now can begin to recognize that they're the ones who are creating the trance state anyway, and surely they can give themselves permission. That alone will often break it, just right away. Recognition, like in a mindscape, we see the unfolding of the metaphoric landscape ahead of us and suddenly understand the solution to the problem. Likewise with this. Otherwise, I'll have the person do self-hypnosis and imagine they're floating backwards through time to a time before they met that hypnotist. maybe a week before, a year before, it doesn't matter. Give me a nod when you are there. Now, the key with any kind of regression, this is my regression line. The key to hypnotic regression is intention. If you want to regress someone to an earlier time, saying, and I wonder if you can find your way back to when you were a child. You don't want to be permissive with this.
Yeah.
You don't want to say, and a person might relax and see if you... No, this is when you say, now go back to that moment before that person with your intention. Direct them strongly. And give me a nod when you are there. Not if you find it. No, when you are there. They give you the nod, and you then proceed with your hypnotic work. Here's a clever way to word all this. So you do this, but this is the hypnotic paradox at work, which I love. Any kind of regression work is essentially impossible, but it works anyway. The reason it's impossible is because, as Milton Erickson, the great Milton Erickson, pointed out, if you regress the person to their childhood, they haven't met you yet. So they can't be hypnotized because you haven't. Anyway, you get the point. But there are no hypnotic seals that cannot be broken. I mentioned online, this ties into what Richard Bandler said. I heard him say when he was teaching once. He said something to the effect of, there is no amnestic loop you can put on someone that is strong enough that it cannot be broken. No matter how much you tell someone, you'll forget this, you'll never remember it. A good hypnotist can get in and untangle it and open it all up again.
Perfect example. The fact that you remember that.
Thanks, buddy.
There you go. All right.
Yeah, because Bandler tried to get me to forget.
Yeah, when you're talking about the directness and the intention, it's sort of like that. Would you possibly be so good as to consider passing me the salt?
Yeah, the old Victorian English indirect communication. I wonder if it would be so good as to pass me the salt. Now it's a question about the person's essential goodness. It's not about the salt anymore.
Michael, I'm looking through the comments to make sure that we're... Normally, we try to do these to simulate our classroom environment as best as possible. We can actually see you. You put your hand up. You have a question. We can call on you. So I am constantly monitoring the chat group just to see what's going on. I see Michael has said, "How do you get the cards?" I thought you knew about these cards, Michael. Anyway, there's a link on our homepage, MikeMandelHypnosis.com. They're like $4.95 Canadian, so that's about $1 US. Or no, it's absurd.
And that's free shipping.
Yeah, we
free
ship
shipping
them
anywhere in the world.
We ship them exactly. Now, certain countries might have poorer postal services, and anyway,
insensitive.
If they don't show up, I just refund you, honestly, because we want you to have a good experience.
Yeah, we do.
So you can order them on our homepage.
So next.
You can only order one deck, though.
Yes, only one.
Yeah. All right, let's just see what's going on here.
Right, buddy.
Charlie Briggs is awesome.
Excellent. Charlie in the UK?
Yes.
Excellent. Hello, Charlie.
Okay, Mohammed, I see you have a question. Remind me, we're going to get back to it. We have to hit the questions as well. And we are all good. That's it. Okay, so we're awesome on questions. Shall we go to the next one on our list? So we talked about hypnotic seal.
Yes.
If anybody has any questions about that, please throw it into the chat room now.
Right.
We will waste a moment of time just to collect. No, I'm not kidding. We're going to move on, but we're going to stay efficient. And if you have a question on that, I'm going to be monitoring the group. Hello, James, I see. Next question. So we talked about the card. We wanted to talk about how to practice
hypnosis. People ask me all the time about FMS, false memory syndrome, which is also known as paramnesia. Recognize, first of all, when we're working with hypnosis, there are a couple of ways of getting to memory. You run with 3 types of memory. You have, yes.
Before we even go there, the idea being, so sometimes people will say things like, can you help me remember something that I've forgotten from my past?
Oh no, I work with people. I lost my engagement ring. I can't
exactly.
find it.
I don't know where my ring is.
Right.
I forget my password to log into my bank or Facebook or whatever it is. And so I need to remember that. But then there's also traumatic memories that people may have, hidden into some locked area of their brain from abuse or whatever it is. And so there's a danger of creating false. Man, that's where we're going with all this.
Yes, false memory is. It's a very real thing. In fact, all memory is false memory. Let's be honest right away. We do not remember anything. We only remember our representation of an event. Any police interrogator or interviewer will tell you this is true.
And we got Rick Green on the webinar.
Rick will answer this. You have 5 people see a crime and you'll get 5 different reports based on our perceptual filters and our beliefs and what we were noticing at that moment. So we do not actually remember anything. What we remember is our representation, and every time we go back to a memory
and access it,
edit it. We
change
edit
it
every time. We might make something larger. We might delete something. We're using the components we talk about in NLP, which is deletion, generalization, and distortion. These are happening all the time. The only way you can preserve a memory intact is to never access it.
Which is the same as not having it at all.
Which is pretty much, yeah. So how do you even know it's there, right?
Exactly. Now, by the way, I want to point out that when I learned this stuff for the first time, I learned it from Mike, from you. I've now seen this in countless books that I've read. So this is known science. This is not something Mike is just telling us. This is well understood neurology, right?
Right, yeah, absolutely. Now recognize your memory is stored as a protein molecule, protein kinase C. Your brain stores it, and every time you access it, you alter the protein in some way, in some microscopic way, which leads to memories either slipping below all conscious awareness, becoming archived, whatever. The key is there's two ways of getting to this memory. You can either associate someone into it, which means you're regressing them yet again, or you can do hypermnesia. Hypermnesia does not regress the person, it just enhances memory. And that was the heart of my method when I worked on major crimes, murders, armed robberies, sex offenses, poisoning, all of these things. I used to regress people to just before the event and then do progressive hypnosis through the event until they would completely recall it. But by doing that, even questioning in normal interview process can create memories that don't exist. So I came up with a better method. Now my method is entirely metaphor. So I never talk to the person, the witness, before, during, or after the hypnosis about the crime. I just put them in a trance, give them metaphors to enhance their memory, then the police interview them again, and all of a sudden all the stuff starts popping up to the surface.
So you've introduced no new actual information.
Correct.
You've only introduced the idea of having a better memory.
And I suspect what happens is a better, an ego state that is more appropriate for recall is becoming executive. Remember, memory is all state specific. It is all based on the state you were in at that time. A drunk loses his car keys, cannot find them. The next day he wakes up, they're not anywhere. The next night he's drunk and he remembers where he put them.
Oh, I remember, I put them.
Specific, yeah, that sort of thing.
We had a question that came in that was sort of similar, but more specifically about forgetting something, like a car key. But rather than recalling the memories of a crime or a trauma or something like that,
right,
a password that's been forgotten. This came in from Roman in Winnipeg.
Yes.
And he had posted in the MMHA Engage group, which is the group that all of our students are in, and said, basically, do you have any methods that are reliable? I have about a 50% hit rate, he said, on helping people recall things like lost passwords or whatever. What do you do for something like that? Something that doesn't have like a huge emotional component.
Point. See, Chris has nailed it here, because the emotional component brings in adrenaline, which is epinephrine, that sets a memory, it makes it stronger. So you can, when we regress someone and they maybe abreact to horrendous memory of something that happened, the memory is very powerfully set. It may have been repressed, but now it's coming out with full fury. Forgetting a password does not have an emotional charge like that.
Yeah, unless it's like, enter it wrong 10 times and your $1 million
lottery ticket
is gone.
Yeah. So the key is, Roman, you probably get about the same success rate as me with things like that. When it is something emotional, maybe something like a wedding ring or a physical object, you'll get much better results because you can regress them to the last time they had it, get a report. Where are you? Are you indoors or outdoors? Who's there?
Yeah.
Then walk them through it slowly and bring resolution. That is pretty good. You'll get way better than 50-50 with that. Timeline therapy, if you practice that, will also enable you to find things that are lost. Just exactly the same thing, but they're floating above the timeline instead of being associated into a memory. You've got to associate them if you're going to do it for an object or something of that nature for the best results. But something like a password, you're going to have to take something where they're not going to remember, I went outside and then I came in and I had the money in my hand and I said, it's at my computer and I did a different password. So what you can do is give powerful metaphors for recall and then have them see a hand writing it on a blackboard. The way I would probably approach this, and I have never done it, but I think I would do this, is get the person to do automatic writing. Put them in a somnambulistic trance. Regress the hand only that knows where the object is or what the password is, and have them write it. The key is the positioning of the hand. For automatic writing, you don't have to hold the pen normally. You want them to hold it completely vertically like this, big sheet of paper, and they're not watching, and let it write. And you may very well
Whoa, this stuff really comes out.
You
All
may
right.
very well get the password by doing that or something of that nature.
Now, I'm sure there's going to be, part of my job is to sit here and listen and go,
stand
what
in
are
line.
people going to ask? How do you get somebody reliably into a somnambulistic trance? The method that we usually teach on day 3 of our live training is the Dave Elman induction. So that's a good, straightforward induction that produces somnambulism pretty reliably in most people the first time, provided you do it correctly.
And you can see it online. It's on
completely
YouTube.
free since we're on YouTube right now. If you type in Dave Elman induction, I'm pretty sure your demo video is the #1 result. So you can watch that for free on YouTube.
Even the
anytime.
Elman organization recommends our video. So.
Yeah, but that was before we met Cheryl and Larry, which is
Dave
totally
Elman's
totally
son
awesome. That
and
was
daughter-in-law.
before we ever attended HypnoThoughts.
Yeah.
It has been, and I want to let's take a quick 30-second pause here out of teaching I said this wasn't going to be a sales pitch, so I'm going to advertise something that's not ours. Here is something that I think you should all buy that is not
nothing
ours.
To do with us.
Right? You get nothing. HypnoThoughts Live is a wonderful conference.
Yes.
If you're especially if you're in North America, it's in August. It's in Las Vegas. It's wonderful and worth attending.
We're going for our 5th time.
And then separately, we started in 2017 going to the UK Hypnosis Convention. We're returning for our second time. We had to miss it last year. Mike's travel schedule got in the way.
Western Canada.
Anyway, we're going back this year. It's going to be awesome. So I highly recommend the UK Hypnosis Convention.
That's November.
Commercial over.
So August, check out HypnoThoughts Live online. That's Las Vegas.
Right.
November, check out England.
Yeah,
UK
I
Hypnosis
think it'd be awesome. Now, I'm just going to scroll through questions here. Rick Green, who is a retired police captain, has said absolutely true. I assume he's talking about the interrogation
aspect,
stuff. Thank you, Rick. It's a pleasure. I was going to say a blessing. It's a blessing to have you in our community,
let's just address
buddy.
that because I'm glad Rick jumped in on it. People don't realize how just asking questions can create reverie, can create a hypnotic state, and you can implant memories. You've got to be so careful not to lead the witness. It happens all the time. I taught the advanced interviewing module at the Ontario Police College, so I know what I'm talking about. And I'm telling you, the interesting thing is back in the 1980s, late 70s, all of a sudden, there were all kinds of people going for therapy and discovering they were taken on spacecraft by aliens, or that their parents had abused them sexually, or their parents were secretly Satanists who were running rituals in their house. None of these, or most of these probably, were not real. And when you got a therapist who intrudes with their own model of the world, they believe that certain things have happened. If they start saying to a child, oh, did your father touch you there? Did your father? You will start to create a memory, and this poor guy's going to be implicated in something he never did. Just a side note to show how powerful this is. Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Canada's federal police, they don't wear hats and ride horses, only for formal events, but they're like Canada's FBI or Britain's MI5. So the RCMP hired me, went to Saskatchewan to Regina, where their main depot is. I was demoing this very thing. We got a cop in his late 20s, had never been hypnotized. We never talked about hypnosis. I said, where are you from? He said, Winnipeg, Manitoba. I said, did you ever go out in the woods, like a family cabin or something? He said, yeah, we had a cottage north of Moose Jaw or something. Wow. I said, just sit in that chair, stretch out, just close your eyes, and just remember what it was like to be back there. So he does, no trance. And I said, one of the great things about being that far out in the wilderness is how dark it gets at night. And he's nodding. And I start to slow my speech, very intentional, and saying, did you notice how many stars there were? Now listen, I'm still talking past tense.
How many stars there were?
There were lots of stars. Did you notice that one of them was really bright? And yes, somewhere. One was really bright, yes. And I said, was it moving? And the guy starts to get trepidation. He goes, yes, it was moving. I'd forgotten this. And now I switched to present tense.
Now's the magic.
Here's the magic. Is it a star or is it something else? And he says, it's a UFO, it's a flying disc, it landed behind the trees. I'd totally forgotten this. The audience was completely freaked out. This man will now pass a polygraph test. Not that the event is true, a polygraph just checks for difference, that's all. But he believes it happened.
Did you fix him after?
Yes, of course, Chris, of course.
Kidding. Yeah, this is really interesting. I just finished.
Be careful if you're a therapist.
I just finished a book called "Mistakes Were Made, but Not by Me." I recommended it to actually everyone on our email list. It's a wonderful book. Mike bought it. He's reading it now. I think it just arrived for you.
It's
on your anyway, this is actually well described. This whole false memory stuff. And in the 80s, these therapists that helped these young women and men to realize that they had been abused by their parents It wrecked tons of families.
It did.
It actually happened. It's
Ruined
horrible.
people's lives.
So as Rick says here in the comments, great questioning, or questioning is key to good work, bad work, and gets key to good work. Bad questioning gets bad results. Sorry, I'm reading
Rick
this
Green,
badly.
listening, I'm sure you will agree with me that the use of the Reed method, which is de rigueur throughout a lot of North America, Reed method of interrogation, interviewing, can actually produce false confessions.
Oh, that's in the book.
Murder trials.
It is
People
in the book.
confess to murders even though they're in another country at the time. Totally weird.
It's really bizarre, and this book, Mistakes Were Made But Not By Me, explains all about how people will confess to crimes that they never committed.
Well, the first time I hypnotized Chris, he
yeah.
confessed to killing Abraham Lincoln.
Yes. That was a great line.
Thanks,
okay,
man.
we're going to hit some of the questions that are related to this
Let's do
in the
that.
YouTube channel. And so, first one comes from Kenny. He says, I recall where you said that you cured yourself of anaphylaxis, your bee sting issue. And can tinnitus be helped through hypnosis?
Okay, well, first of all, I did not cure myself of the anaphylaxis. Let's just touch on it really quickly. I've been stung many times up at our cabin. A lot of nasty wasps up there. But then one day, I moved some firewood, and I got stung on the hand, a tiny little sting here, and within 5 minutes, I was covered in rashes. I was starting to choke up. I felt terrible. My wife rushed me to the hospital, which fortunately is only 10 minutes away, and I said, I'm here so I don't go into anaphylactic shock. And he said, you are in anaphylactic shock. Banged in the IV, and they gave me all kinds of stuff. So it's just a very serious thing. I didn't cure it. It was our friend
William Wood,
Bill Wood, at Hypnothoughts, and I told him about my bee allergy I developed. And the doctor said to me specifically, if you get stung again, it may even be worse. And I have to carry an EpiPen. I have two of them.
Oh, that's right.
He said, don't even pull your jeans down. He said, if you get stung again, just bang it right through your jeans. The adrenaline right away. I didn't want to go through this. It was stressful. And Bill ran the NLP allergy cure on me. Actually, the Robert Dilts one. No, not the Dilts, the NLP one.
He did a bunch of stuff.
And he tested everything with muscle testing, and it took about 10 minutes. And he's proclaimed that I'm now wasp sting danger free.
But
now,
this was really interesting as to what he did, what you guys discovered about that visit to the hospital.
Yeah, it was the doctor. When I was in stress, when we reran all this, he couldn't erase all of it. And the doctor, then we went through the moment. He ran me back through it. And I remember the doctor saying, if you get this again, it's going to be a lot worse.
Prestige hypnosis.
Prestige hypnosis. Well, I've got, PGO spikes from being in shock. And he removed all that. And so we reran it. So now the doctor stands there with a clipboard and he goes, this is nothing. You'll probably never have to think about it again. And everything totally released. Now we are retraining the immune system. I didn't go and get tested for bee stings. There's a lot of them at my cabin, but the hospital is 10 minutes away, and I carry the EpiPen. But my belief is that if I get stung again, I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, I've helped people with all sorts of allergies. I've not had them revert. We never say to somebody who's allergic to peanuts, now go eat some peanuts. We say, go back to your allergist and have a skin patch test done and be proclaimed as free. Chris is allergy free.
Yeah, and we should get on to the question of tinnitus. But
yes, we will.
All my life, I'd been allergic to so many animals, and now I have a puppy. I ran the NLP allergy cure on myself, and then I think I had you run it on me as well. Yes. And I just wanted to find out if I could then go to an allergist, get the prick tests, and determine that I was no longer allergic to at least dogs, because we really wanted to get a dog. My daughters have been asking for one, and the excuse has always been, nah, Dad's allergic to dogs, we can't get a dog, because what do we fall in love with this dog? And then I'm allergic. Well,
they get rid of you.
Me or you. It's one or the other, right? And I guess somebody's got to pay the bills, so
the dog can't get a job, so they'll be keeping Chris.
We were really hesitant, but I ran this on myself, and then Mike ran it on me as well. I went to the allergist. I had zero reaction to the prick test. Is that even the name? It sounds so weird.
I just want you to notice my incredible restraint.
I know. I'm just giving you ammunition here. I had the test done. I showed absolutely no reaction. We have a puppy. It's awesome. I posted a video in the Hypnothoughts live group that just made people cry. Yeah,
of the girls seeing the allergy report and realizing they can get a dog now.
Oh man,
just a crying. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, I'm about to cry right now.
Yeah, well here, I'll give you something to cry about. Listen, let's get to
tinnitus.
Tinnitus. You say tinnitus, and I say tinnitus.
Okay.
Here's the thing about tinnitus. There are numerous forms of it. It can be caused...
Ringing in the ears, right?
Yeah, cochlear, inside the ear. You can have a lot of different reasons for it. It can be from overdose of rock and roll when you're young, which was probably what caused mine. Too much Led Zeppelin and AC/DC. But one of the things is you get different forms of it. Sometimes it's a ringing, sometimes it's a hissing or a buzzing. The one I had was a high-pitched hissing. And my wife suffers from a very specific type called Meniere's syndrome. Meniere's syndrome is based on two different fluids inside the ear, almost like an osmotic procedure. They're different densities, and this pressure builds up. It is then accompanied by horrendous vertigo, where she would wake up in the night throwing up in bed. I mean,
vomiting.
Unfortunately, I'm really good at cleaning up vomit. I don't mind about stuff like that. I mean, she's not, but I'm good with it. She wound up taking pycnogenol, which is a tree bark extract from France, in capsules, and also lipoflavonoids. And she has now got it completely under control. She has to take the supplement instead of drugs all the time, couple a day, and she's fine. And she doesn't get the vertigo or anything. The tinnitus has somewhat muted. Here is what has helped my tinnitus and hers better than anything. It's going to sound crazy, but it works. Get something like a clothespin or a rubber band and put it on the ring finger of the hand, the same side that you have the ringing in the ear. So if it's the left side, put this on the tip of the finger, clothespin, 10 minutes or so. Yep, ring finger, same side.
Like right over the fingernail?
Right on the pad of the finger, over the fingernail, yeah. And leave it on for about 10 minutes when you're watching TV or something. Take it off for a couple of minutes. You don't have to cut the circulation off. You can do a rubber band around fairly tight, take it off.
Just enough
Keep
pressure
doing that
to feel.
every frickin' day. Several times a day. And guess what will happen? It'll turn it down. This is the reflexology method. It took me 2 years to get certified in this back in the early 1980s, and it works unbelievably. In fact, Chris will verify, I was slated for my 6th trigger finger surgery on this hand. I cured it with reflexology using a clamp. The hand surgeon couldn't believe it. He called in the other plastic surgeon, say, tell her how you got rid of this. And now I'm just currently working on a ganglion cyst on my wrist by putting clamps on these 2 fingers. Send me an email if you have any questions about this. Mike at MikeMandelHypnosis.com. I can direct you the right way. But as a hypnotist, here's what you do. Put it on the person's finger. You now give hypnotic suggestions so that every time they use this, the tinnitus will turn down. This then becomes anchored to the clamp itself. The suggestion becomes anchored, and you are hypnotically supporting getting rid of the problem. So you're dealing with it by working with the zone that affects the ear, but you're also supporting it hypnotically, which is a great way to use hypnosis, harmlessly supporting any other healing modality you're doing.
I also want to point out that there is a built-in benefit of the placebo effect in pretty much everything that we do. Right?
Yes, there is.
So if the person believes, even if there was no scientific validity behind it, so let's just for a moment pretend that there isn't. By doing it, you're likely to get a placebo effect.
Even drugs produce placebo effects too.
We know that. This is why the makers of painkillers will put them in a certain packaging, or they'll make the pill a certain size that it doesn't necessarily need to be, or use a certain color on the capsule, whatever it is. You're amplifying the result by taking advantage of built-in placebo effect.
Right, and as Bandler said,
that.
New extra strength placebo
with twice as much inactive ingredients.
Yeah. The interesting thing is, recent studies have indicated very clearly that even if the person knows it's a placebo, it still works.
It'll still work. That's the weird
thing. How weird
thing.
Is that?
And there's some stuff in the book I just talked about, mistakes were made, but not by me, where simple things like watching a presentation of some people, I think it was something like this, and then being told, knowing that this was made up, that there were certain characteristics about those people, like, oh, they're not that smart, and you're aware that you're only being told this as a story and that it's not actually true, still change the person's feelings about. I don't know if that's really connected.
There's so
to the
much
topic,
of this. Well, so much of this stuff can be done indirectly. Our friend Adam Stein is a Toronto psychiatrist. And he now is doing a therapy where he will have people who have a specific issue watch a video of someone else being cured of it. And the people who watch it are being cured at the same, just by watching it. So
very cool.
The mind is a powerful thing.
It's phenomenal. So very, very interesting stuff here. Okay, what have we got? We have some questions in the YouTube channel. First of all, I want to say Maggie Jones agrees with Rick, also a police officer. So this whole questioning thing, the police know this stuff, so trust them. Maggie's awesome. Rick's awesome. We have actually, and Carl Smith is a former police officer.
Yes, Chris Armstrong.
So lots and lots of people in here. Next question. We talked about hypnosis. Oh, let's go to this one because it is part of the planning we did, and also was a question that was submitted by one of our students. They overlap so well.
Well, I'm going to let you talk about it. I'm just going to put some of this perfectly ordinary lip stuff on.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to actually read the question from Ruth. And it maps across perfectly to what's on the whiteboard over there, which you guys can't see, but doesn't matter. Ruth wanted to know, which induction should you use as you teach so many great ones? And that's basically like saying, what's the best induction? How do you know what induction to use?
Right. What's the best meal? What's the best? People say to me, I used to be a wine writer, and people would say,
what's the best wine?
What's the best wine? I said, what are you pairing it with? It's context. You know, if you have a beautiful Chardonnay, you're not going to put that with a heavy steak with garlic. It's going to wipe it out. Its context is the same with hypnotic inductions too. Our friend John Cerboni, his claim to fame is he does like 400 different inductions, and he's brilliant at them. He hypnotized me and hypnothoughts.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
And it was a really enjoyable experience. He gave me a big burst of energy. It took about 3 minutes to do the whole induction, the programming and everything. And part of the intuition will come as to which induction to use based on your own experience. As you get better at this, you'll know intuitively which one to go to. I've had times working with clients in the 1990s, I had a red plastic pin put in a bulletin board across the board at Body Logic where I worked. And I just put on this music, which is wind trance. If I got lazy, a new subject, I'd be talking to them. I'd see they're showing signs of hypnotic trance already. We're getting hypnotic rash in the hollow of the throat and so on. I'd say, just stare at that. Listen to this music. Take a deep breath. Keep looking at that pin. Eyes closed now and sleep now. And bang, that was it. That was the entire induction. You can pretty well do anything if you have the rapport with your subject. In the absence of rapport, nothing will work. In the presence of rapport, you can do almost anything.
I will say that typically, this is how I go now with clients when I'm doing hypnosis. I do not decide in advance what induction I'm going to use. In fact, I don't even think about it. I start asking questions, I start gathering information, and then when I determine that it's probably a good time to segue into hypnosis, that's when I decide exactly what. And sometimes I surprise myself. Like I'll think, oh, I haven't done the Jacqueline power lift in a while, I'll play with that. And then I'll decide, you know what, no, somehow the clench induction just feels like it's the right one to fit this situation.
For sure, buddy, you get a feel for it. And when I was doing therapy a lot in a 2-year stretch in the late 1990s, I made a practice of never doing the same induction or the same intervention twice in the same week. That's why I got good at it. I would just force myself past the edge of what I could do. And Derek Balmer, one of my mentors, the late Derek Balmer, great NLP trainer's trainer, he would say to us, okay, now here's what you got to fix. You got to fix this problem. What will you use? And you'd say this. Okay, you can't use that. Then they'd say, okay, now fix this thing. What would you use? This. What else would work? This. Oh, you can't use that. Pick something that would never possibly work and make it work in this situation to develop flexibility of behavior. Now, having said all this, if you were dealing with a hyper-analytical subject, person who's very analytical, you'll see from their handwriting that you'll get a lot of analytical wedges in their writing. Can you see that on the board, Chris?
Let me just scroll
Let's just check,
down.
shall we? Let's have a look, shall we?
I'm pretty sure that's going to show up.
That's a wonderful thing. Yeah, I'm just having a look.
Yep, totally.
There it is. Okay.
Oh, yeah,
That's the
absolutely.
letter M. See these V's, these deep V's down to the baseline in M's and N's and H's even. Those are analytical wedges. They have to go right to this baseline. They can't be retraced at all. That's the sign of somebody who will hyperanalyze everything, including your induction. Other hypnotists can be the worst. You know, oh, I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing. Good, then go into a trance.
Yeah, exactly.
So give them something to analyze, and the best thing is to go into one of the feeling inductions where you're bringing in kinesthesis, the physical body, you're bringing in kinesthetic ambiguity, causing a cataleptic limb, or breathing with a hand induction causes a cataleptic limb, or the Freddie Jacqueline power lift causes a cataleptic limb. If you put a highly analytical, usually visual person back in their physical body, you'll have a very powerful effect with the induction. It will give them something to focus on and analyze.
I'm going to just give you, because I don't remember the exact URL, if you want a free tutorial on hypnotic power inductions, if you go to our website, MikeMandelHypnosis.com, and then click on the blog link, which just takes you to MikeMandelHypnosis.com/blog, you'll see in the sidebar, or on a mobile device, it's probably underneath all the posts at the bottom, you'll see basically an ad for a free tutorial called Hypnotic Power Inductions or something like that.
But it is free.
Click on that, sign up, and it's about a 10-minute tutorial. It basically explains the two different styles of inductions that we typically like to teach. We've got rapid inductions that often use catalepsy, so establishing a cataleptic hand, having the person then focus internally on all of the feelings and dropping them into trance through that doesn't take very long. Or instant inductions where you're firing a PGO spike, you're yelling sleep, and you're taking people very quickly into trance. So both of those concepts are taught quite specifically and thoroughly by Mike in this tutorial. And then, of course, you still have all kinds of other options, right? You've got the Elman induction. You've got James Braid and eye fixation style of inductions. You've got, if you really have a client who's like, I'm just so stressed out, I really need to relax. That might, as much as we don't often do this, that might be your clue to use a progressive muscle relaxation induction, right? Provided you're not reading a freaking script at somebody and you're actually interacting with the
a
person
human being.
there.
Yeah.
You're good to go. Do whatever seems like it will work for you. We just happen to often go to catalepsy because it's so cool.
You used to get an embedded command there.
Yeah, we often go to catalepsy. Yeah, I did.
I heard that.
Because it really does work and it gives people a cool experience.
Shades of the 19th century.
I like
still
that.
Works.
Okay, so anyway, that's the answer to that question that Ruth asked, and I think let's just go back to YouTube as well. We probably want to wrap up in about 15 minutes or so max. So let's hit. We have a whole bunch of other questions that are still from our
let's
students.
go there, shall we?
So let's hammer these out. Hold on. I apologize. I've got to get to the questions. All right. So we've got now.
Oh, nice.
By the way, Neil asked a question. It's specifically specific to mindscaping. We're going to set that aside. We're going to record a separate video for you, Neil.
Put it in the Mindscaping
And we're going
group.
to put it in the Mindscaping group. We have a group called Mindscaping by Mike Mandel on Facebook. It's free to join. You do not have to be our Mindscaping customer. If you're interested in Mindscaping, which is one therapeutic tool that Mike came up with and teaches, we have a course on it, but the Facebook group is free to join. That's all I'm going to say about that. It's called Mindscaping by Mike Mandel.
Excellent restraint.
Trina wanted to know, how do you create an anchor for a word? So she's an equestrian coach, I assume, or not? Sorry, equestrian or horse riding? Or,
that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, Chris.
There you go. So she wrote, how do you create an anchor for a word? I want to teach anxious horse riders how to use a word as an anchor to feel more confident and relaxed when in or out of the saddle to reduce their nerves.
Great question.
And she wants to teach this in a group environment, I believe.
Okay, we're going to show you the best way to do it. And I know because I've experimented with this stuff since 1992. A great way to do it. An anchor is simply a trigger. Sorry, itching.
I'm not going to volunteer to scratch that for you.
It's a tapping point.
Okay.
An anchor is a trigger that is linked to a specific state. And when that trigger is fired, all the feelings that are tied to that state will surface at that moment. Mm-hmm. You're working largely bringing things into the kinesthetic or feeling system, but an anchor can be in any system: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, can be gustatory, which is taste, or olfactory, which is smell. Richard Bandler said the olfactory sense is the express train to the brain. He's right. Mm-hmm. I only have to get an old textbook, open it, and go, and I'm back at Earl Beatty Public School, an abused kid with an evil teacher, and I'm right back there. But I've cleared all the negative emotions, so it's all right.
Okay.
Now, when you have a stimulus attached to a state, it's most powerful if you anchor it in multiple systems. In my hypnosis shows years ago, I would anchor people in 3 systems, give them something to look at, give them something to hear, give them something to feel. When you want to set a powerful anchor, Trina, right? Mm-hmm, Trina, an equestrian anchor, which you can do, here's how. We recommend the following anchor. We set up the awesome anchor. The awesome anchor works with the ring finger again, same one that you use for tinnitus. The reason why is it's an unusual position. An anchor is best when it is specific, when it is easily replicable, and when it's a little bit unusual, so you're not just using it without thinking. So we anchor in 3 systems. We have the person press the ring finger and the thumb together.
That's your kinesthetic.
And they look at it, that's the visual, and they say, awesome. Now when you do that, you're anchoring in 3 systems. Whatever you're feeling, experiencing at that time.
Ooh, I'm buzzing right now.
Yeah, I'm too, because I fired my awesome anchor. Now, why is this important? You have a tool now. You can teach the other equestrians, and anytime you yourself, any of you watching, notice you're in a powerful state, a good state, a laughing state. You're at a concert. You're having a blast. You notice it. Set your awesome anchor again. Awesome. Fire it again, a few seconds. Every time you do this, you're stacking more power on top of that state. So what you do with the horseback riders is you get them all together and you get them in a powerful state first. Now this is my own little trick and we love it. We gave this to Igor Ledachovsky as a hand for one of his groups and it works amazingly well. The back of your hand between the baby finger and the ring finger, there's a channel there.
I'll just go a little
Chris
bit closer.
is going over to show you.
And I'll show you.
There's a channel. It's about 2 fingers wide.
Right here. Ooh.
Right in there.
Right in there between the
baby finger and the ring finger. Now,
and the ring finger, right in here.
What you're going to do is you're going to tap on that repeatedly, stay in the channel, either like this, or you can do it flat, you can rest on the table, doesn't matter. And you're going to say affirmations of exactly what you want to feel.
Yes.
So this will draw a powerful ego state to the executive at that time. This is remarkable. So you're not going to say what you don't want, you want to say what you do want, as though it's already happening. So here's how you would do it. I'm feeling awesome.
I'm feeling awesome.
I'm feeling powerful.
Powerful.
I'm amazing.
I'm amazing.
All my resources are online. I'm
ready to
confident.
kick some
I feel
butt. I'm just feeling
fantastic.
amazing,
I'm
and I'm ready to
congruent.
deliver
I'm
the most
powerful. My mind is
incredible
strong. My
presentation.
body is fit. Then when this will all come in about 30 to 40 seconds, then you go,
They'll be buzzing.
Awesome. Fire the awesome anchor and stack that on it. Now we teach this in our 5-day live trainings in Toronto. And here's what happens. Every day when everyone comes in, we reset the awesome anchor. People are in an amazing state to learn. By Friday, we bring someone to the front who has a problem with another human being, someone who pisses them off, someone who irritates. Can we say that?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Someone who irritates them, whatever. We get them to think of that person, dissociate the image, put it down there, look at it, stare at that image, and fire the awesome anchor. And instantly, they're set free from it. You're
It's
putting them in
crazy.
a powerful state.
Yeah.
This stuff works. So, Trina, all this circumlocutory way of explaining, anchor in all 3 systems. By doing that, then after a little while, just a few times, any one of these components will fire it. I can do the pressure without saying it. I can say awesome, that'll fire it. If I say it with intent, which is the auditory anchor you wanted, a word, I can just look at it. But if I'm looking at it, I've already fired it. You're stacking them together. This is so powerful. I was shooting some martial arts videos in England years ago at a military base in about 2004. In fact, it was 2004. The other trainer was being videoed, and we didn't have a teleprompter. And every time he would make a mistake, I was sitting with one leg over the other. He'd make a mistake, we'd have to stop, and he was in that bad state, and I would go sniff and let my foot drop like this. And the two, the visual and me sniffing like that, kept getting anchored to his mistakes. So after a while, the foot dropping was enough. I couldn't sniff because it was auditory. So he's going along and he's making his presentation. It's going well. And I just let my foot drop like this.
And he's lying.
He said, why do I keep forgetting everything? Everybody else knew what I was doing. It was just hilarious. Any one of the components will get you the entire state if the anchor is set strongly enough. So get out there and change the world on horseback.
Yeah, and you might adapt the specifics to the situation.
Absolutely.
Okay, now we're going to Ashley's question. So Ashley asked a really great question, and it was, I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it slowly and correctly this time, promise. In using words such as because, and as, realize, imagine, perhaps, etc., is it effective for guiding subjects into trance as well as formulating suggestions? In other words, can you use power words and language softeners in induction and suggestion/intention for the use of the trance and implementing the change? Thank you. This is a really good question.
I think you should handle it because you read it so well.
Oh, thank you.
You're just all over this.
Okay, so, and by the way, I want to point out that a lot of these words, so realize is a verb. It's an unspecified verb. Imagine, same thing. We don't have any nominalizations in here, do we? Okay, anyway, we have an app called the NUVI app. I'm going to write it down
And we're
real
not
quick.
selling it.
It's also free. Can we see
Lots
this?
of free stuff.
I'll write it here. NUVI.
What does it stand for, Chris?
Nominalization, unspecified verb, induction. So you can use these words as inductions, but you can also use them to craft suggestions. So I think the simple answer to your question is, Ashley, both are true. But we want to encourage you, and this goes along well with, by the way, these cards, right? That's one way to do hypnosis.
To get them into your head, yeah.
The app, the NUVI app, and Brian, I see, is in the chat area.
Hello,
Brian
Brian.
is the developer of the app. It's completely free, and there's a video course that goes along with it.
Where can they get it, Chris?
By the way, you know what? The landing page for that is not advertised on our homepage, but I'm going to give it to you right now. Hopefully, I think people will see this. Okay, you want to go to MikeMandelHypnosis.com /NUVI, which is just lowercase NUVI, hyphen course, COURSE. If you go to NUVI course, MikeMandelHypnosis.com /NUVI course, then you'll be able to grab the free video course, and the app is also in the App Store, and it's free, and it's all a great way to practice all of this. Anyway, the reason I brought it up is because if we're doing power language type of words, because you can find that it's easy to imagine perhaps a new level of confidence in your ability to transform your life in so many glanative ways, to eliminate all of those durative habits from the past that used to be dragging you down, and now you can find it so easy to find a new way to just be uplifted and grow in an impressive new way to accomplish whatever it is that you're saying, right? You're making all this stuff as I go. That's kind of NUVI. That's as we go. So you can trance people out by having them sit in a chair and notice how simple it is for you to focus on that sensation and just allow it to spread in a wonderful way insofar as you can relax now. And just find yourself so comfortable and able to drift into a trance as I continue to just talk, and you can focus on your breathing, which can slow at an appropriate rate.
The kid's getting good.
Okay, so all of this, that is using that kind of language to induce trance, right? But then, so now we want to introduce suggestion. And you're already in trance, Mike, right? And it's possible for you to forget certain things because it's not important to remember things that you've already forgotten, haven't you? I'm just joking around here, but the idea is clearly you can use this to structure trance induction
work,
or suggestion. Just use it. It's a great tool. So I hope that answers that question clearly. How was that, Mike?
Oh, that was very well done.
Does the Russian judge give me a 2.0 still?
2.0 from the Russian judge. It was
it's
very,
always
very
8.0,
good.
9.0, and a 2.0 from the Russian judge. All right. So now we have, that was Ashley's question. Jane, I would love to know what tips and techniques you find most effective for working with small groups, some ideas for the best things to do and say to get group engagement as early as possible in a workshop session. Now, we weren't sure if she meant a hypnosis workshop or just a typical business workshop, like, I don't know, better relationship building at work or something like that.
Well, let's address both of them. If it's like a business workshop or a keynote or something like that, the principles are always the same. You're going to go by the Mandel triangle, which is congruence, confidence, and intention.
I know what I'm going to show you.
And when you have this nailed and you are calibrating your audience, you're making sure that you are in a feedback mechanism with the audience. You have to be observing them to figure out whether or not what you're doing is working in the first place. And so I've seen too many speakers who are just running their program. They're running their autopilot and they're not recognizing that they're in a feedback loop with the audience. You have to keep changing what you're saying and what you're doing until you're getting the kind of response from them that you want. So you've got to be congruent. You've got to believe that you are the speaker, and you've got to have heart. And when you're coming at this with confidence and congruence, you'll have a link with them. The other thing is, if you're dealing entirely with hypnosis, oh, and by the way, back to the group, use your awesome anchor before you speak. When I used to do hypnosis shows for 6,000 plus people at Western University, I would get in the zone with this tapping thing and the awesome anchor first. What were you going to say? You're going to add something?
I want to point out that any kind of group work that you're doing, just think of it as many individuals. And whenever we're teaching hypnosis, we always teach people to use yes sets and compliance sets. And this is something you can brilliantly do in any group setting. So you can ask them a series of questions that they're naturally going to say yes to. And then you can ask them to do 3 simple things, 1, 2, 3 at a time, that they will naturally just do, right?
And you see this all the time with speakers. How many of you are glad to be here today? Raise your hand. Okay, turn to your neighbor and say, I'm glad to see you. And what you're doing is setting up a compliance set. I'm not recommending you do that. I find that to be a bit stilted and obvious.
Yeah, you can do something simple as, so we're all here to get some sort of benefit out of this presentation, aren't we? That makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure you probably have in your mind 1 or 2 things that you've already thought about that you might want to really get out of this presentation. Now you can use embedded commands in here too, right? And so here's a simple exercise I'm going to get you to do. Let's say we've done our 3 yeses. Take out a blank sheet of paper. Okay, wonderful. Now make sure that you have a pen. And we all know sometimes pens don't work. Check that your pen's working. Okay, great, wonderful, little bit of comedy.
Clever.
Now turn to the person beside you and whatever. You can come up with some sort of activity that they're now engaged in, maybe writing down 1 or 2 things they want to get out.
Very simple. It doesn't have to be ramped up at all.
And I also wanted to say, if you are facing any kind of resistance, we did both read this book called Instant Influence.
Fantastic.
It was just on my bookshelf.
Recommended by our friend James Tripp. It's by Michael Pantalon, who's a PhD
we
from
have
Yale.
We have a YouTube video on it in our channel that we created because we love the book so much. So you can use that. The intro to his entire book, he talks about going in, I think it it was IBM. He gave a presentation at IBM.
And he had to convince them that he even could make a good presentation.
All these middle managers were kind of like, don't want to be here, right? And he used instant influence to influence them to be really interested in the topic, and it went great. So that's fantastic. We're big believers in taking the concepts of hypnosis and blending them with all this other stuff that we use to build our schema.
Yes.
And you know what you'll kind of notice? Everything is hypnosis.
And speaking of which, everything being hypnosis, because he's correct, is with that question, if you are doing a small group about hypnosis and demonstrating, or making a presentation on hypnosis, demonstrate. I was at the American Psychological Association years ago with my friend Arthur Perlini, who's professor of psychology at Algoma University. We went in. I had no business being there. I'm not a psychologist. He got me in through the curtains, and we watched this presentation. He said the entire symposium of the thing we went to was about hypnosis. And I said, what kind will they do? He said, none. I said, what? He said they won't demonstrate hypnosis in case it doesn't work in front of their peers.
Yeah.
One of the things you can do is if you're speaking on hypnosis, demonstrate. Don't just talk about it. A great demonstration is everything. And this is where our friend Freddie Jacquin is just amazing. He'll just go for the guns and do powerful, powerful demos with the group. When you demonstrate, you raise your own credibility right away.
Are we okay to go for about another 10 minutes, do you think?
No.
No?
Definitely
Totally
not. No, we're already at noon. No.
Okay, so we are not going to be able to go on any longer, unfortunately, but you know what I'll do is I'll go through these comments in the YouTube chat, the parts that didn't get answered, and maybe what we can do is at some point jump in, do another quick live broadcast or pre-recorded or whatever, and answer some of these questions. I want to just close out then by saying, again, no hard sales pitch. We have the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy for those of you who want to go further with online training. And one of the things I want to encourage you to do is take us up on the option for a guest pass. We created this thing basically called the guest pass where it's $1 right now. So and I'll give you and the whole idea is if you give stuff away for free, people expect everything to be free if you give everything away for free. So by making it $1, it just shows that you're willing to actually pay for training. You get 1 week of unlimited access to all of the training that we have inside of the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy, and you're not obligated to join, i.e.
But you can binge.
It does not turn into a subscription when the week is over. No. It ends. You pay $1.
You don't have to cancel anything.
Nothing happens at the end of the week with your payment. It just basically expires. You can choose to remain a member. So it's a super low pressure and easy way to just check out what we have without having to make any kind of commitment at all, essentially, other than the $1. The way to do it is to go to MikeMandelHypnosis.com/guest.
Not hyphen,
forward slash guest hyphen pass. I hope this shows up on the screen. Anyway,
just keeping my head out of your way.
If you can't figure that out, then you know there's a problem that maybe hypnosis can't fix. But MikeMandelHypnosis.com/guest hyphen pass. That will get you a guest pass to our training. And if you liked this, maybe send us an email. You can email us. The way to reach us both is to send an email to info@MikeMandelHypnosis.com. If you send us an email, we would love to know your feedback on this and if you would like us to keep doing things like this. Because, as we said, we do these monthly for our students, but we are open to the idea of doing additional webinars or once in a while just opening the monthly ones to the public and answering questions. We think these are a lot of fun, and hopefully you agree. So, with that said, let me just cue up the...
I've got the wonderful reverse engineering queued
One day
up.
I need like a webinar assistant.
Yes, Chris, that would be good.
So let's put our lower third just because Ross did such a nice job designing these graphics for us. He's our graphics and video editor guy, and we just wanted to show off his work there. So there you go. So buddy, thank you everybody.
I'm going to fade in the music.
Amazing experience. We are going to get ready to fade to black, and.
That didn't work, Chris.
Okay.
No. We
always end things the same way. So, okay. So we want to thank you all for participating, and good night.